Greetings, 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 greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. Today, this episode is the vault. Trust Christian recap of the business credit, no social, no SSN workshop. So we definitely want to go over some of the notes for some of the trustees. Quite a few trustees. Obviously, we're not there. But we're going to go over some things that maybe were addressed and point out some things for people that were not there at all and don't understand trusteeship. And it was just a great workshop, obviously, once again, for many reasons. You have other lives in there getting blessed, they don't need to hype it up for themselves. They speak for themselves. To hear the actionable information that was given is always appreciated, to know that it's actionable. So we definitely want to do a recap of the business credit no social workshop. Appreciate Missouri for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate Missouri for tuning in live, listen, replay. We got the Bronx and appreciate the Bronx for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate the Bronx for tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you listen live, listen, replay. Once again, obviously, it was a great workshop. We did our job. The vault. With the Trust Christian recap of the business credit no social. It's one of those things that we could start out right away with one of the biggest elephants in the room. A lot of people, they hear some glamorous information and they hear Houdini and they think that they can be Houdini. They think that they could practice and be David Copperfield overnight. You're not going to be David Copperfield overnight. So you have to learn tricks. You don't learn how to do the trick where you're chained up underwater right away, upside down, and get out of that. You know, there are many different tricks to the trade, but so many people hear tricks and they're like, oh man, if I could pull it off, that means I'm great. Well, he did that multiple times, not just one time. Sometimes you hear information like, oh, I'm gonna get a nominee. Okay, you can hear these pieces of information, and then what happens? Then you think you're Houdini now. You think you're a David Copperfield. Oh, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna do these tricks. You're not gonna do them. You don't have the confidence. You don't have the skill set. This guy's been talking to people since he's been 25 years old. People, tens of people a day, hundreds of people a day, possibly, maybe even thousands of people a day at different events, different things in life. They make it sound so easy because they've been doing it for 25, 30 years. Of course, they're going to make it sound easy. They've been doing it for 25 years, but they're giving you stories to let you know the downsides as well. You see, they tell you why they got out of those businesses. Usually, if they're successful, Houdinis, they they literally will go from one business to the next. But people, they think that that's easy. If it was so easy, everybody would be doing it. They're not. So there's many different notes that we could go over, and that's what we're going to do here. In reference to clients, hmm, two good recommendations. A lot of people ask, where are the readings? Where are the readings? What can we read? What can we read? Well, Wall Street Journal and Financial Times are still ranked as some of the highest magazines for people that are in the circles read for the daily, for the weekly, for the monthly basis. They have these readings in their repertoires. They're reading Wall Street Journal, they're reading the Financial Times. uh, what's interesting is that, when this country was brought up, A lot of people hear a lot about this country right now, but they don't. If you're not thinking internationally, you may not be thinking about Belize, but Belize has definitely been one of those countries for years. It has become above the radar. It's not under the radar, which means it's not under surveillance as much anymore. It's above the radar. It's like a Costa Rica. It's like a Costa Rica. So there was this. There are schools, the American Bankers Association, that if you don't go get a part of, you'll never know what these individuals are talking about. Hmm. Well, we could talk about this in the public. There is a website called LexisNexis. It has a reporter view. It literally has probably the most data than any other credit or identification agency out there almost. Well, some people may say, oh, Trust Christian, he's in the room, He's really sitting down in the room. He got that right. Sitting in the room, taking notes. Well, the downside of building a business that 10% and your gross margins getting that 30% out. That right there is an old wily thought process that a lot of people may not be able to hold true to, especially when you get to your 10% limit. As soon as you get to your 10% limit, you let it hit it and you walk away from the position. You come back, you see if you can get that 30% gross margin. Those are not easy businesses to just move into. What we could say is, and so many ways you could say this, service businesses are getting that 30% via the internet right now. Whereas the manufacturers, do they have to eat any of the margins for their downside? And of course they do. Should they be doing a lot of stuff on the desktop instead of the cloud versions? Hmm. We'll give one of the gems away that was given away when it comes to one of the companies that you should go and endeavor in. And we see this across the board where these type of companies, if you look at them, they actually have pretty good weight on the internet. Even if these companies are over a $500 million company, they're still doing pretty well. So when you see a company that's in the leasing company space, a leasing company, you know, it's almost like, who doesn't need a leasing company? You all need a leasing company. That's who needs a leasing company. You got family assets. Maybe you're leasing them to the public, but they want to talk about this private game. Oh, well, the private. What about leasing property to the public? They want to talk about go filing a UCC and doing what? They putting a lien on the property. They're not leasing it though. They filing non-UCs. They're not leasing it though. Think about how many assets you have that you could put up as collateral now, leasing it to another company. Those are the things that you miss out on when you're not in the room. Um, and this is an interesting video, seen this many years ago. It's called the Panama Papers. It's definitely a good video to go endeavor and check into. The Panama Papers are, a quick YouTube video away for you to see how the game is going and for you to let go of your emotions and focus on getting in capital. One of the things that we had in the testimonials was somebody talking about buying debt. And, it's interesting to know that so many people don't know that, you know, and you hear them, oh, I'm this, I'm that. Well, what are you? Are you understanding that this is what even Fortune 500s are doing? Don't you think they're buying a company that could be possibly going under just for a fund to get rid of capital when you're billions of dollars up? That's what they're doing. Do you see a lot of the CEOs are just going and opening up new businesses? Some of them are not even trying to buy debt; they're trying to pay back the debt, and that's what's making these new unicorns look really good right now, is that they're trying to say that they're debt free and they're high cash flow and that their margins are great. I mean, when you look at any of these major product companies, they're trying to say that their margins are, they're trying to get at least a 30% margins, at least. One of the things that we also always sit there and we hear about is the Duns and Bradstreet industry norms and key ratios. Those are some of the things that, when people say, "Oh, I'm building business credit," blah blah. I'm building business credit. They don't talk about knowing how to walk in with the Duns and Bradstreet and immediately getting the money, because when your Duns and Bradstreet number is good to go, and you walk into the bank, you show them that Duns and Bradstreet number. Oh, is it that easy? Does it say that your entity is lendable for 60,000 or 50,000 or 150,000? Another entity that's collecting information on you that for sure you probably don't know in the public is called Microbilt. BILT, Microbilt is one word. This company's definitely collecting information on you right now. You're like, oh man, who's the top five information holders? Is it really, the F book, or who is it? Well, Microbilt is definitely in the top five, top three. This is the information you missed out when you don't go to the private banker events. So once again, Microbill. Oh man, I don't know about this website. What am I supposed to do with whatever I do? You're supposed to learn how to you not let these people use this information against you. They actually have a profile of you, even if you didn't want one. Like, what do you mean? Once again, LexisNexis and this one are two gems that have been given out. When you look at people say, what state do we incorporate in? Because that's everybody's question. Oh, what state do we incorporate in? What state do we incorporate in? So when you look at, states and other, what would we say? It's interesting to know that the mentor definitely is against all the old schoolers. Like, if you go look at major companies on the stock market, most of them are set up in Delaware. So to see him want to do Midwest entities and say Midwest are good, it really shows you that, like, even when you talk about a state like Wyoming, where Wyoming literally is welcoming, you know, they literally just passed a marijuana bill. Y'all actually can go do your research on what was passed to know what do these states need so they can open up the floodgates. They're opening up the floodgates. It's like the new cotton. You can make clothes out of it. You can make houses out of it. They're not trying to let that industry go right away. Steel. You know how much they can make out of literally herb farms? Sometimes when you sit in these type of meetings, a lot of times people, they just kind of casually grasp information, maybe because their ears aren't listening fast enough. But one of the things you see is that there's a structure to things, there's a system to things. And to see someone even say, it takes me about 90 days to really get something going. I look at things every couple quarters, and you see that it takes about 9 months to have a baby. This is the mentality that you have as an entrepreneur. People say, how do you predict the future? How do you predict having a baby? The way you predict having a baby is how you predict having a future. That's how you predict it. Now, maybe if you never had a child, you don't know. But if you had a kid, this is easy information. 90-day increments. Plan this out. Okay, here's the first trimester. Here's the second trimester. Here's the third trimester. Bam, there you go. So this is one of those ones that you had to be in a room for. So you get half of it. Which is, you always got to have at least two business plans. One for the bank and one for yourself. This this is one of those things that so many people in business they say, "Oh man, I'm gonna get a business plan." Do you have one for the bank, which is to get money, and have one for yourself, which is to keep you on track? Now, in our sector, we would call this your management operating plan. What's your management operating plan? That's more of your business plan. Whereas the business plan for the money, to get money, is definitely going to look a little different. It's more of a big picture. You know, we don't have, that's not the standard operating procedure. It's interesting to see, something that, a lot of people may not understand when this is not financial advice or legal advice, but to hear the mentor say, that they actually use the business card and max it out, throughout the month and then, get it paid off rather quickly, 10 days before it's due. Those are things that really make the mentors, superior to others. When you're sitting there, you're like, oh, okay, if you were to engage in this manner, you actually need to be doing it this way. Mentors actually encourage creating shelf companies right now. Surprisingly, you got to create shelf companies for your family. You got to be able to sell companies right now, which is really interesting. A lot of people, they hear about shelf companies. They say, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying a shelf company," and then it's like, "Oh, well, what's really going on with a shelf company? How do I do that?" Well, is that doing anything? Do I stop using it at one point? What's going on here? So, those are the things that a lot of people, really may want to be looking into, which is that, definitely want to look into that. Uh, so many times you hear so many people think they're the smartest dingleberry in the room, but in all actuality, the mentors are buying paper that's performing, and when they're buying paper that's performing, they actually have clear chain of custody of title. They have a clear chain of custody of title from their position because they're actually getting the performance fee from the note. See, these are the the things that people on the internet only dream of. Oh man, I wish I could make money off a mortgage like a bank too. Right. That's what they're saying to themselves. I wish I could make money off of money off my gold and silver too from the bank. Exactly. Of course you wish you do. But this comes to chain of custody. Where is it lying? Who is it with? That's the difference. People say, "Oh man, I'm only trying to." When the mentors say they're doing it and they're Houdini in it, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna say, "Oh man, I guess I just never will get to that level, or I'll figure it out on my own"? No, what you do is invest in a relationship. You get in contact with those people that you learn how to make sure that you know how to clear a chain of custody of title, or since you learned it from me, you learn how they are executing it and how they're actually executing getting title companies to clear a title instead of you trying to be the smartest bulb in the room. Once again, and this falls right into the next statement, which is looking into the license versus the franchise. This is one of those things that so many people, they don't hear the story. So the mentor has stories for days about licensing versus franchising. And you see the difference in mentality when you see, okay, I can still lease a license, but I don't know about, I'm not really trying to lease even a franchise because, and it's not to say you shouldn't, because even in franchise, they get so many, the way they've learned how to manipulate franchise nowadays, they get so many, they put you in fees where you're pretty much paying the franchise for a long time unless you know how to pay the franchise off earlier. So there's franchise fees that come in heavy, whereas when you're licensing out something, you're leasing it out. But they don't want to talk about that with the UCC. They don't want to talk about that with your birth certificate. They don't want to talk about that. Are you licensing your name? Are you licensing it? Or are you franchising it? I'm trying to just discharge some debt, man. I got a poverty stricken mentality. Trying to discharge some debt. You think the government's doing that? They licensing out the positions because they get voted there. Well, this is a public admonishment. Well, you're not gonna say that one. Not at all. This is an easy one for anyone that really cares for themselves. Contact a small CPA for old companies. See who is actually selling their business. It's a great source to get established companies. So when you talk about those shelf companies, once again, we're talking about now companies that possibly could either be going out of business or selling their name in the CPA. They know people, and usually when we talk about it, it's CPAs, maybe small CPAs, or people that they have a CPA business and they're doing CPA work for entrepreneurs. Mm. A lot of times, a lot of people come to the vault and they'll say, "Well, what's the best business to get into right now?" They literally will ask this question, like, "What's the best business to be into right now?" Well, here's how the mentor put it: you should research the top 10 businesses of the previous year and the top 10 businesses that failed the previous year, and that's how you figure it out. Uh, this is an easy one. A lot of times, a lot of entrepreneurs, once again, whether they selling services or they selling product, they're not too confident on their sales agreements. Their sales agreements are really what you know are the ultimate ways to get around a lot of things. When you have proper sales agreements, when you have ones that are strict and specific for your industry and what you're doing. So, these are things that a lot of times a lot of people, they, oh man, I don't know about a sales agreement. Yeah, well, you gotta get on the internet and look for some. So you can look for some major corporations. Of course, those are gonna be floating on the internet. But then when you get past the major corporations, you want to obviously get something that's more bite-sized, more to your liking. So it's one of those things, even with the bigger ones from the major corporations, they just have so much more work inside of it, like information that's detailed about a board and a this and a that and a this and a that. Whereas like smaller sales agreements, you just got to get your hands on it, and then on the back end of that, get in contact obviously with a good lawyer that can give you a good sales agreement, and or even a paralegal, somebody that is really versed in those things. Hmm. Are we almost done? Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to the replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. Uh, yeah, a lot of times you end up taking notes just for the privateness. You just want to make sure that you're in line. I think sometimes when you go to these events, you should always be thinking about what your business or what entities you're managing need at that very moment. So a lot of times when you get notes, they'll be very specific. So those are notes that you probably wouldn't share in the public. Those are things that you would share in the private. So we're going to end on this one more note here. It's called the Blue Sky Laws. These are interesting laws, actually. Just from the quick reading of them, the Blue Sky Laws. These are things that you have to be aware of when you're moving around in what you call commerce, and just moving around in general. These are the things that you definitely want to you know, take care of and move in that fashion and in that appropriate fashion. So definitely had a great workshop. Appreciate everybody that came out to the workshop. It was definitely a great workshop. It's just one of those things that when you see the intimate setting, a lot of times, a lot of people say, when we actually got good reviews about that, that people say, oh, the intimate setting was something that we appreciated too. And see, what happens is that's how you really build something. Is when you understand that it's not about everybody, and that sometimes may be a harsh reality for people, but nevertheless, when you see how wealth works, it's not moving around in these circles like most people are moving around in circles. It's moving around definitely quietly, a lot differently, and that's what we see. So, you know, when you're in a room, can you connect with other people? A lot of times, a lot of people are worried about that. We shun against that at the vote at times. Because what you got to get to is to the point where you're making $250,000 a year, and then you can get open to different information. Now, we're going to an event coming up here that if you don't have $10 million, you don't get to sit in that room. So, do you hear the difference? Oh, I gotta get $250,000. Oh, wow. Right. I gotta get $250,000. Right. Or you're gonna have the 10 million and then sit in that room. But I don't think the information really is that different. Why wouldn't it be? Oh man, I didn't know it was that type of journey, Trust Christian in the vault. I thought we was just out here playing for the light, just to get. Are we doing it for the internet fame and to just be financially and free and sipping pina coladas on the gram? Are we supposed to be doing that? No, that's not real life. So we'll match people's lifestyle for any day, for any day. They say it's about the quality of the life, correct? Right. It's the quality of the life. Some people, they don't mind digging ditches. So, this is where we are, ladies and gentlemen, 2022. It was a great workshop starting out the year. Obviously, we came with a bang, just like when they said, COVID came around, we were still here, and we're still here. And so, we've still been here, and we're going to stay here because we understand the territory we're in. We're in uncharted territories. Most people are in uncharted territories when it comes to their so-called long-term financial well-being. We could say that they're playing with it. Are they playing with it? Oh wow, I don't know. 10 years is gonna roll up on me. I don't know if 50 is gonna come faster than 30 came. Yeah, you think that. I don't know if 60 is gonna come faster than 40 came. The time is moving faster though. Oh really? And this is where we are. Many are already got baggage and they're down the drain. For the ones that understand the vault and say, okay, I missed the first workshop. It was for the private bankers. That's once again, see, we're doing events for the private bankers. That's what you're doing. You're doing events for the individuals that when they say, oh, who owns a bank in the room? We do. Formally. They're really practicing private banking. Oh, they just weren't talking about it through the internet. I got to implement these strategies. Oh, okay. And that's where we are. We're down one workshop. We were thinking about double back, maybe do something in June, maybe July, and we should just go ahead and do, the family reunion for the summertime. And it could be big, it could be sellout like it always is. It's just doing sellout now. Come on now, the traditional. Oh wow, I get to connect with all the others, right? Oh, that's what you thought it was for? Are you over the 250? See, and this is how we discern the room. The room gets a little. Oh well, if you're in the foundation, sit over here. If you're over here, sit over here. See how we distinguish the room? Or should we mix them in and still tell you, don't talk? Because when you're in these environments, it's pretty quiet. It's just the speaker speaking. And, people are very tenuous sometimes in the wealth building environments to connect with you. But a lot of times, once you're in those environments, they're not that tenuous to talk to you. They understand it. Obviously, if you're in here, you paid the dollars, you're in here. What do we need to connect about? A lot of times, and so that's fine. But the thing about it is when you're in trust, it's a secret. So nobody even in the room is really supposed to know who you're there for and what you're there for, because you're there on a secret mission. And what's crazy is we did interviews, a whole debrief of everybody after it. At the end of them, stepping the game up to the next level, saying we're gonna do a debrief with everybody. Took over an hour to do a debrief of everybody there at the workshop. That's pretty much always sold out. So this is definitely one of those workshops where we know that by request, we would be doing something, but mainly always for new trustees. When you guys come down to it, it's always got to be new trustees. We've had our mentors in the room many times, and I think we did it maybe what was it, last May and last October. So we would definitely want to do something mid-year this year, even with a mentor, another mentor. And the biggest thing a lot of people don't understand, we could tell you all, a lot of people really need the financial planner mentor in the room. They need more of the financial literacy. They need that. That's the part people don't understand is they need more of like having a financial guide, and that's why it's good to have somebody that's been in trust for over 30 years, international trustee. You know, that's what you're buying when you buy into the vault. You're buying resources. You're buying relationships. But how many people are investing in their education and their relationships? It's an investment, ladies and gentlemen, in yourself. How many dividends could that pay off? We heard that resounding in the actual testimonials, which was interesting to hear people say it's an investment in yourself. Like, geez, they actually are getting the blood of the whole matter, the marrow of the matter, which is interesting to see. You're getting the marrow of the matter, which tells you their mindset. They're getting the spirit of it. That's what brings long lasting success. Then you got people working together. See, a lot of times, a lot of people don't understand. You might have to come and try to get the couples right. You might have to come and do the couples thing. That's where we are. That's where we are in today's day and age. You'll see a lot of women in the room. Do you see the husbands? You'll see the husbands sometimes. Sometimes you might not. Usually, if you see the husband, sometimes you'll see the wife, especially in our environments. In our environments, you'll see families. And that's the difference as well. Once again, appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, to replay. This is Trust Christian, Know Nothing, Control Everything. The Vault, the Trust Christian recap of the Business Credit No SSN workshop. Definitely want to do this. Share with you all some of the gems and jewels out of that workshop, because it was definitely some of those things, and we always appreciate them. Always appreciate it for sure. Being around a mentor, and you see what you pick up and you see what you don't pick up, and you can't say that the mentor is not successful when obviously you see what they're charging, you see what the lifestyles like, we see what businesses they built, and it's interesting to see. A lot of times you see people just kind of like capriciously listen to different pieces of information that someone's saying. They're not listening hard, you know. You gotta listen to everything somebody's telling you, like even where they lived at before. So important to go like Google it right there on the spot nowadays. And that's the benefit of like the new generation, like generation I guess or Generation X. You know, generation now, millennials, you know, like they're gonna call you out on your BS. They're gonna not allow you to just sit there and just say like, oh, I lived here and man, like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, if you said you lived here, like, I'm literally Googling it right then and there. Like, even as you still continue to talk, like, I've already Googled that name of whatever you just said. And it's interesting to see so many people not like get those like small details and it's just like, wow, they're not getting the small details. Those small details matter because you're literally validating the character and someone else that's standing in front of you. You know, for somebody to tell you that they lived in a flat across from an embassy, you know, or over top of an embassy, you know, these are things that we're googling right away. You know, so you know, it's just interesting to see. You know, the level of mental ear discernment that people display in a lot of these workshops, and to see people not have that level of discernment where they're not that quick to the draw. You know, they're still old school, like just, oh, I'm a hard listen. And it's like, no, this is more of an active listen. This is more of an engaged listen. This is more of a, you have the Wi-Fi right there in front of you in the internet. And this is where you build a case outside of, you know, just not having someone tell you stories and you falling in love with stories your whole life. Oh, I seen this story or heard this story. It's like, no, you actually know now how to go and put together what will be considered a case. And it is a story, you know, but it's a case more than anything. So, you know, these are the things, and that improves your trustee skills because as you're moving around, you got to be able to put this in the manual to share with your children to know how to go out and do, to share with your successors to know what to go out and do. Oh no, I didn't know I had to do that. I didn't know I had to tell my successors. You gonna have a bank do it? Oh, I'm getting trusteeship, but I didn't really get prepared to share with the successor. Who you gonna do that with? Appreciate everybody for tuning in live. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com.